The story comes to us from WFLX.com out of St. Paul, Minnesota, and Minneapolis. A couple of people I know on Twitter and Facebook said that they've been saying this for a long time. One of them lived in Minnesota for a while and said, I've been saying this. Well, what is it? The Minneapolis Police Department has engaged in a pattern of race discrimination for at least a decade, including stopping and arresting black people at a higher rate than white people, using force more often on people of color, and maintaining a culture where racist language is tolerated, according to a state investigation that was launched after the George Floyd killing. Now, the report was released this month in April, and following a nearly 2-year investigation, said the agency, and the city would negotiate a court-enforceable agreement to address the long list of problems identified in the report, with input from residents, officers, city staff, and others. The residents is really who you need to hear from. The report said police department data demonstrates racial disparities with respect to officers' use of force, traffic stops, searches, citations, and arrests. Human Rights Commissioner Rebecca Lucero said during a news conference after the report was released, it doesn't single out any officer or city leader. So it's kind of like, department-wide. She said the investigation is not about one individual or one incident. It's department-wide, huh? City-wide? Now, Lucero asked how long the agreement with the city, known as a consent decree, might have to remain in force, and she said, as long as it takes to do it right.
Former and current city and MPD leaders all acknowledged that there is a problem with MPD's organizational culture and that they knew that it was resulting in racial disparities. MPD officers are almost 2 times as likely to search black community members.
Officers using covert social media to falsely engage with organizations like the NAACP unrelated to criminal activity, and says they consistently use racist, misogynistic, and disrespectful language.
Neither she nor the report laid out a timeline for the negotiations. Consent decrees in federal cases often remain in place for years. Now, the report said the city and the police department do not need to wait to institute immediate changes to begin to address the causes of discrimination that weaken the city's public safety system and harm community members. It listed several steps that the city can take now, including implementing stronger internal oversight to hold officers accountable for their conduct, better training, you can give them all the training in the world, it ain't going to help, and better communication with the public about critical incidents such as officer-involved shootings. Cop speak, basically. Now, Mayor Jacob Fry, this is who we wanted to get to, said at a news conference, I found the contents to be repugnant, at times horrific. It made me sick to my stomach and outraged, and I think that our community feels the same way. I talked with leaders from our black community this morning, and they're not surprised at all. They've been saying this for years, for decades, and for generations.
Found the contents to be repugnant, at times horrific.
The report blaming the discriminatory policing in part on deficient training and insufficient and ineffective accountability systems. Alleging despite new use of force policies announced after Floyd's murder, the department, quote, failed to implement and train on the updated policy in a meaningful way.
Jacob Fry saying he found this to be repugnant, at times horrific. He's the mayor. He's the mayor. You don't think the mayor knows what's going on in his police department? And if he doesn't, he don't need to be mayor. Bye, Jake. Hit the road, Jake, and don't come back. Bake. I don't know. But even the mayor's like, whoa, I didn't know that. Yeah. Interim Police Chief Armelia Huffman was quoted as saying, we're committed to providing effective constitutional police service, the service that people across our community want and need and deserve.
There is no place in the Minneapolis Police Department for bias or discrimination. I am confident that there are men and women in the Minneapolis Police Department who have the desire to meet the challenges of today and tomorrow.
And then it goes on. It's pretty lengthy here, but the gist of it is that this report came out, and it's what the black community's been saying for years. Yeah, they target black people. They profile people of color.
The city and state now tasked with drafting a court-enforceable agreement to prevent future discrimination as a federal investigation looms. Shaquille Brewster, NBC News.
It's what we all say. People get upset and go, well, no, there's whites, there's Hispanics, there's Asians, everybody gets arrested. But if you look at the numbers, it's the numbers is what they're looking at. You know, you have this many whites pulled over and pulled out of their car, this many blacks pulled over and pulled out of their car. It's not even.